Welcome back, Tarkir Dragonstorm limited set review. In this video, red cards. That's it. That's what's going on. I'm talking about how good I think they're going to be. We're focused on draft. That's what we do. Here's the tier system I use to evaluate cards. Feel free to take a look at it if you haven't seen it before. It's a little different. It's fluid. It's not, it's not a set in stone system. It's more of an avenue to discuss things, but the goal is for it to be at least a little bit helpful in terms of you know, being predictive of how good cards are. That out of the way, we're going to begin with Breaching Dragonstorm. 4 and a red enchantment. When it enters, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast it without paying its mana cost if its spell's mana value is 8 or less, so every time. If you don't, put that card into your hand. When a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. This is just way too expensive. So in red, you want to be playing a bunch of cheap cards because you're an aggressive color. And in limited, this just hits. Like, this is just going to be like pay 5 mana for a 3-drop a lot of times. Like, that's really what this is, and that's not good. Like, yeah, you can bounce it back, but all of the other Dragonstorms are significantly better than this. I would be shocked if I ever play this. It's just too much setup cost for limited, really. It just doesn't really work. These effects never really work very well. Channeled Dragonfire, single red, sorcery. It deals 2 damage to any target, and you can harmonize it for 5 and 2 red. So we've seen this type of thing before. They printed a red-white shock in, I think it was Crimson Vow. It might have been just Innistrad. Midnight Hunt. I forget which of the two sets it was. It was red-white, deal 2, gain 2. I think that was an instant, and its flashback was 6, and that was a pretty good card. This, I think, is better than that card. Yes, it's a sorcery, which is a downside. But the upside is it's mono red, it's 1 mana, and you get value out of discarding it, right? Like, yes, it's going to cost you a ridiculous amount for the shock side of this. And there's a reason why. The reason why this costs 7 mana to harmonize is that it's probably too good of a burn spell to put into standard if you let the harmonized cost be too cheap. Like, you just can't print that into standard, probably. That would be my guess. That's why it's so expensive. Because in limited, you could probably have it cost 4 red red, and it would be fine. But the reason why it's so expensive is constructed. It's I mean, whenever you get 2 shocks for 1 card, you're probably gonna be pretty happy. Yeah, the second shock costs way too much mana. Okay, like you know what I mean? You tap a creature, it costs 1 red red, or you're really that sad about it. And you gotta kill something, you gotta kill something. And this essentially makes your opponent's life total 2 lower when it's in the graveyard, because your opponent just can't take the damage because this will just kill them. So it's threatening, it's value, it's a good shock. I imagine this will be good. Yes, it's a sorcery. But, I mean, it is what it is, right? You gotta accept that that's the case. Quarry Steel Cutter. 1 on a red. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and haste. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess. You may attach this equipment to it, and it is equipped for 1 on a red. This is really cool. So, I like things that cost 2 that work with Flurry a lot more than things that cost more than that, because you can use them on like turn 4. You can play 2 spells, so you can go like this equipment, play another spell, then this is has trample and haste on your monk guy, and it's a 2/2 trample haste, and that's pretty decent. The equipment itself is fine, like you're paying 2 extra mana, but what you're getting is you know, you can just make a bunch of guys. Now it's not going to be easy. I don't really like the casting multiple spells a turn cards because they're really hard to make work. Like, it's just hard to sort of get that deck to sort of have everything it needs in it. This is helpful though because it allows you to sort of have a payoff, and it gives you creatures which the decks usually need a little bit of help with in terms of like actually finishing the game. Like, they can get value from the second spell, but sometimes they have a tough time actually ending the game fast enough. And this does help you do that. So I think it's good. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's a reasonable equipment. Devoted Duelist, 1 on a red, 2/1 haste. When you cast your second spell each turn, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. When I see these type of creatures and they're 2/1s, I'm generally I'm off it. Like I just don't like when they're 2/1s. When they're 1/3s, I tend to be much more interested because they sort of do more of what you want. Like if this was a 1/3 and didn't have haste, I would like it more because it just has more inevitability that way. It can block the 1/1 tokens. You can play a little bit of a longer game. Um, this just doesn't really block anything at all, and it doesn't attack super well. There aren't really going to be a ton of 1-drops in the set or things getting played on turn 1, so it's going to have attacks, but it just, there are a decent number of 1/1 spirits, 2/2 spirits that just trade with this, and you're trading like for half of a card, and that's not great. So I don't love this, and I don't think the effect is strong enough to make up for that. Draconogenesis. 6 red red. Enchantment. You may cast dragon spells without paying their mana cost. Obviously not designed for limited play. That's not why it's here. So I'm not really interested in talking about it that much. It's an 8 mana enchantment that doesn't do anything. If you haven't cast all your dragons by turn 8 already, I don't know what you're doing. Equilibrium Adept. 3 in a red, 2/4. When it enters, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. It has Flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, this creature gains double strike until end of turn. So, at the end of the day, this is a 4-mana 2/4 that draws you a card. And it usually has double strike. I think I like this less than... I think this is worse than just the white common that draws you a card when it ETBs and costs less based on the number of creatures you have. I like this maybe even less than the green common that does like that if you have a +1/+1 counter. I think that actually might be an uncommon. I forget. The fact that you have to play it and it's a 2/4 that doesn't get double strike until you cast your second spell. You know what I mean? I'm just not that excited about it. I don't know. This doesn't excite me. Is it fine? Yeah, probably. But I mean the floor on a 4-mana 2/4 that draws you a card that you do have to, again, it's not as good as drawing a card. It's 80% as good as drawing a card, which is pretty good, but it's still not busted. I think this will be a good card. I'm not, it doesn't excite me. Fire Rim Form. 1 on red. Enchantment. It has flash and it enchants a creature. When this aura enters, enchanted creature gets first strike until end of turn. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0. I like this a lot. So I like these enchantments generally that come in, give a creature a temporary boost, and then they leave the enchantment behind and it kind of keeps the creature big. I like them usually. This one feels like kind of a good combat trick. It does trigger all the prowess stuff, right? It gives you a lasting bonus. It's a second spell maybe at times. I kind of like it. I don't think it's amazing or anything. It's really bad on like the mobilized stuff. Actually, no, it's actually okay with the mobilized stuff because you go wide and then you play this and then it makes the thing harder to block. I don't know. I think this is kind of a good trick. I'm not excited about it. I probably should move it down a tier because it is a combat trick, and I think I will do that. But I don't mind it. I don't mind this. The moving it down is partially a reaction to just like me not, moving stuff down far enough when the combat trick doesn't draw you a card. Like that tends to those tend not to be as good. So I just need to remind myself, to move it down. And we will move on to the next one. Fleeting Effigy. Single red, 2/2 haste. At the beginning of your end step, return this creature to its owner's hand. I think it's +2. You can pay 2 in a red to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. It is obviously, it's like the Aki Ronin from Neon Dynasty. That was really bad. That card was really, really bad. This card is better because it has the ability to pump on it, and it's in a set that cares about double spelling, so you could the dream is alive, right? Like the dream of, oh, I'm gonna have a second spell to cast every single turn. Like I get it, and it's 1 mana. It's not crazy that this could do the thing. I don't think it's not good in just like a Mardu deck. This is gonna be good in like the Jeskai decks and the Jeskai decks only. Like the decks that are really all about the double spelling, this could maybe be decent, and everywhere else it's going to be really bad. So that's why it's in tier 4. Not that it's completely unplayable, but it really is a one trick card here. It's just for that, and it doesn't really do anything else. Like it doesn't attack super well. Like once your opponent plays a 2/3, this basically doesn't do anything on the battlefield. So you really need to be getting the double spelling effect. Iridescent Tiger, 4 in a red, 3/4. When it enters, if you cast it, you add Wooburg. So it's a free 3/4. Similar to the last card, maybe there's a home for it in the Jeskai decks. Everywhere else, I don't think I care about this. It's just, I don't. This is an effect that isn't so good on a 5 mana creature because really, like, how often are you going to have um, an ability to spend 5 whole more mana after you play a 3/4 for 5? It's not bad that you get it for free. It's just, it's expensive. Like, I don't really. I'm not taking this early. I'm not excited about getting into red for this. It seems fine. It seems like a playable card. It just, you really need to be. You need other things to help you have more like velocity to like be able to keep casting stuff with this. And this is just not that. Like the other velocity stuff matters so much more than this does. I don't think it's horrendously bad, but I just don't really see like the need for it in like a good version of the deck. Jeskai Devotee, 1 and a red 2/2. It has Flurry when you cast your second spell each turn. It gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and it has the ability to fix 4 Jeskai colors once each turn. Yeah, I mean this is fine. Another like again like I think this is better than the black one. Worse. I think it's better than the blue one. I think it's better than the black one. I think it's worse than the white one. The green one, I keep forgetting what the green one is. Um, is it Teamer? No, Teamer's blue. Abzan then? No, we already have Abzan. That's black. White is Mardu. This is Jeskai. Sultai is the green one. I'd probably like the green one then. I don't know. I'll have to go when I reevaluate it. But this is fine. I think you'll play it in just the Jeskai decks. Like, are you really playing this in Mardu? Are you playing this in Teamer? You're definitely not playing this in Teamer. Like, ever. You're never playing this in Teamer. So, Mardu, I don't really think you need it in Mardu. I feel like there's better stuff in Mardu that does. Like, I just don't think this is Mardu. Like, Mardu, you just would rather have a guy that summons stuff. I don't think you really need the fixing in it. So I think it's, again, just the Jeskai card. A lot of these lately, just Jeskai cards that are like, maybe they go late and, it all works out, but. Magmatic Hellkite, 2 red red, 4/5, flying. It is a dragon. When this creature enters, destroys target non-basic land an opponent controls. Its controller searches their library for a basic land, puts it onto the battlefield tapped with a stun counter on it, then shuffles. This is actually going to be very relevant. Usually this type of ability is not very relevant for limited. This is actually going to be very relevant. The triomes exist. You blow up your opponent's triome. You take him off a land for a turn. You maybe do a little bit of damage to their mana base. I mean, this is strong. It's a big flyer. It's really everything you want. The only thing that scares me is the double pip. That's the only thing that I'm looking at that I'm like, don't love that. It's pretty big though for a flying creature. It's a 4/5. That's huge. That's a large creature, and it's gonna be laying down the beats. It's gonna be difficult to deal with. Could just move it up to tier 1. Could just move it up. I don't really have a great reason not to, other than the double pip, which is tough. It is tough in a 3-color set. The double pip gets harder. I'll leave it. It's tier 2, tier 1. It's good. It's a good card. You're gonna take it. You're gonna take it early. You're gonna play it. Meticulous Artisan, 3 in red, 3/3, prowess. When this creature enters, create a treasure token. I don't love this again. Like it's another one of these like, oh, it's a slow card that does the thing. Like, yes, making treasure token is kind of good. Okay. Prowess on your 4-drop. That doesn't block really well. I don't I don't know, man. I'm not jazzed about it. I'm just not that excited about the idea of prowess on my 4 mana creature. You usually want it on the cheaper creatures so that you can double spell. Like this doesn't really help you double spell. Yes, it makes the treasure, but like it's so expensive. It doesn't. It's like it's not offsetting the cost. Um, so I'm not a fan of this. I don't really like this very much. Molten Exhale. 1 red sorcery. You may cast this spell as though it had flash if you behold a dragon as an additional cost to cast it, and it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So we've seen the sorcery speed deal 4 at 2 is a good rate in limited. You're very happy about that rate. Really no questions asked. 2 mana sorcery deal 4. This can be 2 mana instant deal 4. That's a lot better. You're going to have dragons. It's going to be on a lot of the time. Either way, it's a good card, so yeah. Narset's Rebuke. 4 red instant. It deals 5 damage to target creature. Add one of each Jeskai color. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So again, the Jeskai stuff, it's like, okay, well, I had to get to 5 mana in order to be able to do the double spell thing. It's cool when it works. Like, when it works, this is a 2 mana, deal 5, exile a thing. Wow, amazing. That's really good. It's just, it's only for one deck. You're only playing this in the one deck. Maybe, I could maybe see Teamer wanting this. I could maybe see Teamer playing this. Maybe. I just like, why would you play this when you could just play this? Is kind of my question. Like, you just have this 2 mana deal 4. I have to get to 5 to be able to deal 5 to get 3 back. It's just like, what? Like, we have this other common right here that is going to be an instant a lot of the time, and it just seems like it's a lot better than this. I don't think we need this. Is kind of the point. If the Just Guy deck ends up being good, all these evaluations are gonna be wrong. By the way, they're all just gonna be wrong because all of these are down on like the like doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work. Just Guy deck doesn't work, doesn't work. I have to see it. So it's another one where this is the one I'm actually the most hopeful about of all of them. I think in red, where it's like okay, like I mean the rate isn't bad. I mean even 5 mana deal 5 isn't the worst. It's not the worst. Um, And I could be convinced to I should probably move. It does exile. It's a deal 5. It gives you some mana back. I'm sure you'll find something to do with it. 3's enough that you're probably gonna. I'm gonna move this up a tier. I've decided to move it up. Maybe that'll be wrong. Whatever. I want to indicate that it is better than the other Just Guy payoffs. Overwhelming Surge. 2 in a red instant. Choose one or both. It deals 3 damage to target creature or destroy target non-creature artifact. I didn't realize it said both. Does that change things enough for me to move it up a tier? How many? There's just not that many artifacts. It's going to be great when it gets an artifact. The problem is there's just not that many of them that matter. 3 mana deal 3 instant to a creature tends to not be that great. It's like okay. And again, there just aren't. If there were more artifacts, I would be more interested. It also doesn't destroy artifact creatures, which does kind of matter. Like a lot of the artifact stuff is creatures. There are actually gonna no, you know what? There's the clan fixers that are artifacts for like 2 mana. So this actually blows one of those up. All right, no. I should move this up. I should move this up. The fact that there will be one of those artifacts that's 2 mana that gets value in the late game, just sitting on the battlefield for like 5 turns in, I would say a decent number of games if the format is slower, which it may or may not be. The faster the format is, the worse this card gets because the fixers just get worse, and then it just doesn't matter that it can blow up an artifact as much. But I think this is just gonna be I think this is gonna be decent. The rate obviously three deal 3 not the best, but I have faith. I think this actually will be pretty good. Rescue Leopard. 2 in a red, 4/2. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So this obviously is meant to work with Harmonize, right? There's a couple of things that care about 4 power as well in the set, in Teamer specifically. it's not really it's not really a huge deal, but the harmonized thing matters. I just think this is not an exciting 3 drop. Um, like it doesn't attack well into the twos because it's a 4/2, no trample, and it doesn't really block really very well. It doesn't really fit in anywhere. I think that the harmonize is kind of where this thing excels. Like you'll play this, it just doesn't block. My problem is it just doesn't block. It dies to the shock, dies to every removal spell for 2 mana. I don't know. I'm just not excited about this. I could be made to believe. I could this is one of those ones where I'm like, okay, I mean it's doing something that's appealing, like it's casting my harmonized stuff for cheap. That's appealing to me. But isn't there I feel like we could just play better cards to do that. Reverberating Summons. 1 in a red enchantment. At the beginning of each combat, if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn, this enchantment becomes a 3/3 monk with haste in addition to its other types. You can pay 1 in a red to discard your hand and sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. This is atrociously bad. This is really bad. For a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that you have to cast the 2 spells before combat, which is not good because it means you're going to be tapped out when this thing is in combat, and your opponent can go like, okay, well if I want to remove it, I can do that because there's just not going to be any mana to like you have open. And then the sacrifice mode isn't that good. Like you're paying 4 total mana to draw 2 cards basically if you're empty-handed. Is that good? No. So I don't really know why this is so bad. Like, I don't know why they had to make this so bad. I don't know. It's kind of confusingly bad to me. It's one of those cards that's like, it's so bad that I'm like, why does this even exist? Like, what is this for? So, I don't know. I really don't. I don't. I'll find out someday maybe. Sarkhan Dragon Ascendant. 1 in a red, 2/2. When it enters, you may behold a dragon if you do create a treasure token. Whenever a dragon you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Sarkhan until end of turn. It becomes a dragon in addition to its other types and gains flying. So this is a good 2 drop. 2 mana 2/2 ETB make a treasure. That would be a really good card, right? I would say it makes the treasure frequently but not all the time. And it becomes larger frequently but not all the time, right? It's it seems like a good 2 drop, but there is like a floor that's not great of just 2 mana 2/2 no text. That's not a great floor, and you do need a bunch of dragons for it to be at its best. So I'm putting it in tier 2 because it's good. It's a nice card. You can draft it early. Just a 2 drop that goes in any red deck, and you'll play it in any red deck if you have at least 2 dragons. I would guess. 2 seems like plenty of dragons to even play this. I mean, that's not many, but again, the floor isn't like that low. It's low, but it's not 0, right? Seize opportunity. 2 in a red. Instant. Choose one. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Up to 2 target creatures each get +2/+1 until end of turn. So this is kind of weird. I actually think I should move this up a bit. It is a weirdly modal card. 3 mana, draw 2 ish, kind of. And then it's 3 mana, make 2. You know what? I'm kind of interested. I am kind of. The problem is what deck actually wants this, right? It's just Guy wants it. Mardu probably wants it. Teamer probably doesn't want it. Teamer's not that interested in this, I don't think. I think Teamer's got plenty of ways to do something better than this for 3 mana. But Mardu and Jeskai could each get a uses out of the pump ability. You're getting 6/2. No, hold on. You're getting 4/2 worth of stats over 2 creatures. You could put those stats on like the tokens that attack. That means they trade up. I'm talking myself into it. I'm talking myself into this, even though I think just the modality might be enough. I think it may. Problem is, where would I actually take this? It's one of those cards where it's like, where am I actually going to take this? Am I actually going to take this 5th pick, 6th pick, or am I taking this more 9? Because if I'm taking this, you know, on the wheel as opposed to not like if I'm taking this on the wheel, it's rated appropriately. If I'm not trying to wield this, I'm trying to like take it pick 6. I need to move it up a tier. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it. Could end up being one of my more wrong takes. We'll see. Shock Brigade. 1 in red, 1/3 with Menace and Mobilize 1. So, the reason that Karizev is being referenced here is that Karizev is a better version of this, but similar sort of flavor, like similar sort of, things going on. 2-drop that makes a temporary attacker that has Menace. Um, just looks really good to me. This just looks really powerful to me. It's going to be hard to block, and if you want to, like, if you have anything that's like, I care about summoning creatures, then this is going to just go great with that, because this is going to summon a creature every turn. Plain and simple. Like black, there's sacrifice stuff. There's like whatever. I feel like this just goes in every. This team, like a teamer doesn't really care about this. So could I move it down a tier because teamer doesn't care about it? Maybe. I mean, it does. It does kind of read like just a Mardu card. It's like, oh, this is just Mardu. Is tier 2 too high? I feel like the rate is so good though. I feel like the rate is just so good because you're getting all this stuff for 2 mana. Getting all these things. I want to believe it looks so appealing to me, this card. But again, like, does Teamer care about a 2-drop that has 1 power for Harmonize? Maybe not. Does Jeskai care about? I think Jeskai still wants this. There's no way, right? Jeskai's an aggressive deck. There's no way Jeskai doesn't want this. Mardu definitely wants it. Teamer kind of weird. I think I should move it down. I think I should. I think I will move it down. I want it to be here, but for the record, I do. But I am scared about, like, oh well, if you're taking this, you are actually locking in more than it kind of reads on the like monocolored nature of the card. So that's where we stand. That's where we're standing on this. I'm standing on tier 3, and we're moving on. Shocking Sharpshooter, 1 in a red, 1/3 with reach. Whenever another creature you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. So similar to the last card, right, where it's kind of like, again, does Teamer care about this? Absolutely not, right? Teamer does not care. But the other 2 decks should care a lot about it. And I think for that reason, I'm going to leave it here. I mean, this is just a lot of damage, right? Like, anytime you have any mobilized trigger, it's 1 damage. And it's 1 damage. And it's just so much damage, I think. I have to believe in this. I'm being a believer in this card, even though one of the red decks maybe not all that interested in it. The reach is quite nice. The reach is quite nice. 1/3 reach, that can block some stuff. That can get the job done against some flyers sometimes. Who knows? I don't know. Not me. But yeah, I like this. It's just it does, like, it's sometimes you can like draw this on like turn 5 and you just attack with your mobilized stuff and just ping somebody out, like deal like 3 or 4 damage or something. Like, just feel like if this ever deals 3 damage, you're thrilled, right? I just have to be thrilled. And I feel like that happens, like, pretty frequently. Like, you just play this on 2, play a 3-drop, play 2 creatures on 4. Pretty likely to be able to play 2 creatures on 4. That's 3 damage. It has reach, kind of annoying to block stuff. I don't know. I'm a fan. Stadium Headliner, single red, 1/1. Mobilize 1. You can pay 1 in a red to sacrifice it. It deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature. So it only hits creatures with the sacrifice ability, but 2 power attacker on turn 2, pretty good. It doesn't really attack all that well. Like, what you want to do is like cash this in at some point. Be like, all right, well, in the early game I got in, a couple points of damage, and then on turn 4 I attack with it, cash it in to kill the creature, get a big attack with all my other creatures. And that sounds really good to me. Yet another red card where I'm like, does this really fit in the Teamer deck? Not really at all. So I'm kind of like, so Teamer to me is sort of looking more like blue-green, and then like, are we like just splashing the red with the removal? Is kind of what Teamer looks like to me. So something to keep an eye out for. Stormscale Scion, 4 red, 4/4 flying. Other dragons you control get +1/+1, and it has Storm. So if you cast 1 spell, it makes two 4/4 dragons, or two 5/5 dragons for 6. So on turn 8, cast a 2 mana spell, cast this, you get two 5/5 dragons, and you did your other spell. I think that's achievable. I think that's, you know, not amazing. I mean, I don't know how to feel about this. If you do get to do one spell, it's great. Again, some of the like the if you do this is really the combo with the free spells, right? The quote unquote the rebate spells, the 5 mana tiger and the whatever. Although the tiger doesn't work with this because it doesn't give you double red. Neither does the other thing. That only gives you a single red. So you actually have to have like like you have to have like more mana than it, whatever. Um, so be advised on that. But I think this is a thing. I have it in tier 3, which is kind of a throwing my hands up. Like I don't really think this is that great. I'm probably not going to take it that high, but I might play it. Like I don't think it's like that bad. 6 mana 4/4 flying. Other dragons get +1/+1. How bad is that? I mean, it's not the worst. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. There's a decent amount of dragons. So I think it's okay. I think it's just okay. Stormshriek Feral. 4 in a red, 3/3, flying haste. It has 1 in a red to give it +1/+0 until end of turn, and it has an omen as a sorcery for 1 in a red. You can discard a card if you do draw 2 cards. So it's the rummaging effect, tormenting voice. Having tormenting voice attached to a thing that you can cast in the late game is pretty good. It's a dragon. Red cares about the dragon stuff. I mean, all the colors care, but red cares, I think, a little bit more than some of them. And yeah, I just like it. It's good, flexible. You know, do one of these things. You cast the omen. It makes your deck thins your deck a bit, gets you back to this thing faster. Just kind of get like infinite copies of it, and yeah, I don't know, kind of cool. Summit Intimidator, 3 in a red, 4/3 reach. When it enters, target creature can't block this turn. We've kind of seen this before. This is they did this in they had one of these in Pioneer Masters, which was a 4 mana 4/3 menace that did this, and it was not great, but you could play it. And that's how I feel about this. It's not great, but you could play it, and it's probably not a complete disaster. Is Reach better or worse than Menace? It's probably better, but not meaningfully better. Like I don't I would say that I would rather have a Reach on my 4/3 that has this ability than Menace. Maybe that's not even true because it doesn't attack as well. But dude, I don't know. This card's whatever. I could even put this in tier 5 and not feel bad about it. I think it's pretty bad. And so you know what? I'm gonna do that because I'm never gonna play this. It feels like a card that was like printed 10 years ago. I don't know. It just feels out of place here. Sunset Strike Master, 1 in a red, 3/1. It taps to add red, and you can pay 2 and a red to sacrifice it to deal 6 damage to target creature with flying. Pretty good. I mean, this is great, right? It's a mana elf on 2 that can also be an attacker, and it can also be a removal spell in the late game. This really does it all. I really think this is a very flexible 2-drop. It would go in any red deck. I'm very happy about it. It makes me want to go back and move my other uncommon red 2-drop down, but I don't want to because I like it so much, even though it's definitely worse than this one. Like, I would always take this over that one because it just goes in any deck. But it makes me sad, and so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it even though I should, even though that's right. I don't need to be right. I don't need to be right, okay? It's not about being right. It's about liking a card more than how good it actually is because it kind of seems cool, and then just ignoring reality. This one's good though. I don't know. This card's good. It's a good card. Everything about it's good. There's nothing bad about it, really. Tursa Light Shatter. 2 in a red, 3/3 haste. When it enters, discard up to 2 cards, and then draw that many cards. Whenever it attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, exile a card at random from your graveyard. You may play that card this turn. That ability is almost meaningless. I'm really just evaluating this as a 3 mana 3/3 haste that lets you rummage too, which is pretty good. And the second ability sometimes does something, but it's not really like the casting a random card is just not. It's just not that great because if you have 7 cards, the odds that you had something you actually like don't care about are probably pretty high. Like you could hit like I don't know. It's still. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It gets value. It's a value 2 drop. It's a good card. I could even put it in tier 1 in this format because again, it's just take a red card, whatever. Just take a monocolor card, all that good stuff. I'm leaving it in tier 2. It looks good but not broken. Twin Bolt. 1 on a red instant. It deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. It looks fine. I mean, we've had Twin Bolt before. Um, there are a lot of 2 drops that have 1 toughness, is something I have noticed. There's just a high number of cards in this set that have 1 toughness for 2. There's some 3 drops even. Like, there's just a lot of 1 toughness creatures that are 2 mana. And so this picking them off is very, very good. And sometimes a 2 mana deal 2 is just good. It's just the rate it kind of tends to be worse than it like looks. It's just kind of like, do you really want a 2 mana spell that deals 2 damage? It's just like it's not. It doesn't usually do it. Like in the best case scenario, it's like broken. In the worst case scenario, it's like still kind of fine. So it's fine. I just think it's worse than the other common removal spell. Underfoot Underdogs. 2 in a red, 1/2. When it enters, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token, and you can pay 1 and tap it. Target creature you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. The rate is way too bad. Way too bad. 3 mana for a 1/2 and a 1/1 is just not. That is not flying. That is not gonna fly. That is not good enough. I will not be casting that. It's too bad. There's just like when you compare the rate on this to the 2 drop that has menace and makes and mobilizes, it's like kind of night and day, right? Like that is way better than this, and this is just not. I can't imagine putting this in a deck. I really can't. So I probably won't. Unsparring Boltcaster. 2 in a red, 3/3. When it enters, it deals 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. So this is kind of whatever, but a lot of all the mobilized stuff it works really well with because your opponent's going to be incentivized to block the 1/1. So that makes sense. It's kind of low opportunity cost because it's a 3 mana 3/3, which isn't good, but isn't like it's not going to lose you the game. And sometimes you twin bolt with this on 5. That's kind of a thing. It's not crazy good, but it's something. I don't know. I think you kind of have to be high on the high in terms of how in you are with the mobilize to like this. But if you're in that space, I think you do like it, and I think it's a fine 3 drop. And I kind of want to move it down again. I had it in tier 4, and then I like moved it up, and now I kind of moved back down. Like all of Red's cards are just like all for the one deck that they work for, and they don't really do a lot of the overlap stuff well, which kind of scares me. It kind of makes me think drafting the color is going to be a nightmare because it's just like, well, when you're starting red, you're not really staying open. You're either taking the cards that are good in the go wide red decks or the like bigger red decks. There's not going to be as much overlap as you'd like. I don't know. I'm going to leave it here. I think this is actually fine. War Effort. 3 in a red, enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever you attack, create a 1/1 red warrior creature token that's tapped and attacking. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. I don't know why I put this in tier 4. It should be lower. I'm going to fix that. Very confusing. Yeah, this is just bad. We've seen many, many effects like this, and they're never good, and this one's also not going to be good. The give +1/+0 to all your creatures effect just is not as strong as it looks, and this makes it only works when you attack too, so it doesn't even like make the 1/1 every turn. This is just horrible. I don't even really want to talk about this card anymore. It's bad. I don't know why it was not in tier 5 to begin with. Wild Ride. Single red for a sorcery. It gives a creature +3/+0 and haste until end of turn, and you can harmonize it for 4 in a red. So in theory, this could be a lot of damage. In theory. The reality is sorcery speed in a set where there's just I feel like there's a decent amount, there's enough instant interaction. I just don't like this. I don't like you gotta play it as a sorcery and then I mean the harmonized mode, like getting the harmonized value is good, but I don't really I just don't believe in it. The reason it's not in tier 5 is again, it is you are getting a decent amount for like one card. You're getting +6/+0 over two cards. You're getting two card casts. You're harmonizing. Like there's synergy with it. I just think it's gonna be not premium, but I think you could maybe find a spot for it. Last red card. Zergo's Vanguard, 2 in a red, star 3, mobilize 1. This creature's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. So I never like that text. The text of, oh, this creature's power is greater to equal to the number of creatures you control. It's a lot better than this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. Like this side of it being creature focused is a lot less bad than its toughness because then your opponent can't just like block all your stuff and then kill this. But it's still, I mean, it attacks the 2/3. That's not very good. Realistically, it's attacking as a 4/3 in a lot of spots, which is a lot better. It doesn't block. It's not blocking. I know you got to be able to block sometimes. Like you just have to be able to block sometimes. And this is a 3 mana 1/3 on blocks on turn 3, and you just have to be able to block sometimes. And when this tries to block, you lose the game, and it doesn't even generate like permanent advantage to like grow its power. It's like, all right, well, it's a 2/3, and then it's a 2/3 again. It doesn't like get to be bigger, it doesn't scale, right? So I just don't love that. And as a whole, I'm feeling underwhelmed with red. I am. I don't know why. A lot of these cards, there's a lot of tier fours in red. There's a lot of cards that I'm like not believing in. I don't know. This is interesting. Usually it doesn't mean anything. Usually I'm wrong about these things. Um, but maybe red's not the place to be. I'm concerned. There is growing concern from me about the interaction looks great. So this, I mean, my original thesis in this format so far has been Teamer looks great. Sultai, like just all like blue looks good. Blue has a great counterspell and a great draw. So, like just has great stuff and everything that it needs. Um, green looks like the best color. I think we'll get to green in the next video here, but green looks like it's the best color at common again for like the whatever format in a row. Like it's been the best color at common for quite some time now. I guess that's not really true. It was an OTJ. Was it in Duskmourn? No. But Foundations, it wasn't. Foundations was kind of weird, though. I don't really want to count Foundations. Was in the last set. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, some of those green commons look big, and some of these red commons look tough. They look tough. The interaction at least looks great. The interaction looks very good. So that should mean that red is playable, even if the creatures aren't the best. And that's it. That's it. That's the set review. That's the red part. Um, Thank you for joining me. There's more set review content. Please feel free to check it out. Subscribe. All that. See ya.